When you prepare for an interview, what do? You might say, go over your resume, go over your work history, get dressed, get all that together. But really, what do you do to psychologically prepare so that you're ready to answer those questions? In actuality, you fantasize. You actually build the fantasy of that interview and run it through your head, maybe once, maybe multiple times, over and over again, in order to put yourself in that situation as a dress rehearsal for what could happen. In the end, that's the point of fantasy. Now, yes, it's entertainment. Yes, it's to get away from the mundane and circuitous life, from everything that we have to deal with. But that's actually a short-term use of fantasy. And I'd argue that if you're using that as the long-term reason for fantasy, it's actually going to be detrimental to your preparedness and psychological health. It's only therapeutic for a short period of time. Fantasy's place in society and what it has done has always been about social preparedness and psychological readiness for something that has not yet occurred, but could happen, just like you preparing for an interview. That's why you read war fantasy about betrayal, about gaining power all of a sudden, losing power, about fantastical ethical decisions that you may have to make that are really difficult because you're preparing your mind psychologically for things that maybe you haven't done or encountered, but may happen in the future. So why travel to ancient Mesopotamia, right? And live with these characters in a world full of superpower beings dealing with their own mortality while being under a curse, or living in a world where there are oppressive overlords that control all aspects of life, because there's a lesson and psychological preparedness to be gained there, something to be learned there. In the Epic of Rin has several moments where he is struck in a way that hopefully you are struck. And one of them is when Rin is captive in the underworld, where he can't get out. His whole life he tried to do what was right. He tried to do good. He actually sacrificed his own well-being several times for the sake of others and for the sake of his country, for the sake of his community, and being selfless, and for his God. And in the end, look what happened to him. Everybody was wiped out almost. His queen was taken to the underworld as a symbol of Gehel, which you should read that. And then Rin himself was taken to the underworld and entombed to die what's basically called a god's execution. Where basically in this world, beings don't just, of that kind of supernatural wind, don't just die like we die. It takes generations upon generations for the wind in their body, the ruach, to break down so that they no longer are able to reanimate, repopulate, and come back to life. So he's left there to rot for hundreds, thousands of years. Why would this happen to him after all the good he tried to do? And he goes through it psychologically, and he prays, and he wails, and he cries, and you go through that with him. Because in that moment where you've tried so hard to do such good for someone out there, and you've tried so hard to represent yourself ethically, spiritually, pure to the world, that somebody has it out for you and hurts you and takes a swipe at you, you're in that moment with him. Not the same, but that's the point of fantasy, is to reach for that extreme, to cover all the experiences there. But how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the idea that, like Rin, that his people are under a curse? That everyone of his bloodline is under some kind of curse. How do you process that? Does that mean God doesn't love you or care about you? And what does that mean for your purpose and value? Rin deals with that. So there's something to be gained there, to learn there, to experience there with him. The forethought, the dress rehearsal for something that could happen in life either to you or someone else that you want to be prepared for. That's the purpose of fantasy. That's why I really write, is to help people move from that place of trauma, of sorrow, of hurt, and have preparedness, or to just have healing from that moment and move through it. I hope you pick up something today and read it, and I hope you express good judgment in what you pick up, because some writers do that well, some don't do it nearly as well. Have a wonderful day.